Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently pushing the word in sincerity and in faith. And Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be based on this article in regards to a major winter storm that's brewing. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, give some precepts, and Lord's will you're edified. It says a major winter storm is brewing. It's likely to unleash dangerous ice and snow from the plains to the East Coast. It says a major winter storm, the season's most extreme so far, is set to lash the eastern half of the United States with damaging ice and heavy snow late this week. It's all being fed by a brutal blast of Arctic air that's bringing the season's coldest air to date. A wide-ranging winter storm will produce great swaths of heavy snow, sleet, and treacherous freezing rain from the southern Rockies/plains and mid-south starting Friday and shifting toward the East Coast through Sunday, the Weather Prediction Center warned Tuesday morning. The storm will begin to intensify in the plains on Friday. Its wintry mess of snow, sleet, and freezing rain could stretch more than 1,000 miles from Oklahoma and northern Texas to North Carolina and Virginia by Saturday night. The National Weather Service has already hoist winter storm watches for much of Oklahoma and parts of northern Texas into Arkansas and northwest Louisiana. Additional winter weather alerts for other areas are likely in the next day or two. Major travel disruption on roads and at airports is a given across a widespread area from the southern and central plains to the East Coast. Of particular concern is the freezing rain, which could lead to damaging ice buildups in addition to making travel impossible in a worst-case scenario. So even a quarter to half-inch thick coating of ice is enough to bring down trees and power lines. Portions of the south from northern and eastern Texas into the lower Mississippi Valley, northern Georgia, and parts of the Carolinas are at greatest risk for significant icing based on the current forecast. Travel could be brought to a standstill across major cities, even with smaller amounts of ice. To the north of the storm's ice zone, several inches of snow will pile up over an area that could stretch from around Oklahoma, northern Texas, and southern Kansas to the mid-Atlantic. Snow and some ice will likely break out from northern Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas to the lower Mississippi Valley on Friday and Friday night. From there, the sprawling wintry mess of snow, sleet, and freezing rain will impact much of the south, mid-Mississippi, and Ohio valleys and the mid-Atlantic this weekend. Snow could last into Monday along parts of the East Coast, depending on how long the storm takes to finally exit out to sea. So the Lord, He's just bringing more and more storms, and these storms are becoming more intense. Just as the men of the Lord have been saying that these judgments of the Lord would become. It says, however, the track of this storm and how it interacts with the blast of cold air is still somewhat uncertain, and that will make a big difference when it comes to snow and ice totals at any one location. Those details will come into better focus over the next couple of days. So one thing that's for certain, brutal cold is on the way for millions, and any snow and ice that accumulates will not melt quickly. That means any impacts could last into early next week for areas that see significant snow and ice totals. Yeah, and where I am right now in New York, the weather is like between 23 and 17 degrees, or 17 and 23 degrees. So like it's actually like frigid outside. Even with layers on, it's still extremely cold outside. So we're already in the beginning stages of, like it says here, the Arctic invasion that will feed this winter storm arrives in the Midwest and plains Thursday into Friday, and will then spread into the south and east this weekend. Dozens of locations could approach their coldest daily high temperatures on record, especially on Saturday. Temperatures will be around 30 degrees below average by Friday in parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and northern Illinois. That's significant since mid to late January is when average temperatures are already at their lowest level for many locations east of the Rockies. Thermometers in the Twin Cities will likely remain below zero all day on Friday, and lows both that morning and Saturday might bottom out near minus 20 degrees. Chicago could see at least 2 consecutive mornings with sub-zero low temperatures. So dangerously cold wind chills are also expected. The upper Midwest will see them fall between 30 and 50 degrees below zero. Frostbite on exposed skin can occur in as little as 10 minutes when wind chills are this cold. The worst of the cold will push into parts of the south while also spreading into the northeast on Saturday, plunging thermometers as much as 15 to 30 degrees colder than average. Highs in Boston and New York might not rise out of the teens, and Dallas-Fort Worth is likely to stay below the freezing mark. All of this sprawling Arctic air is notorious for feeding big winter storms, including deep into the south, and this one appears to be no different. Yeah, just a sign of the times, man. Very dangerous times. This winter is going to be frigid temperatures and probably wild snowstorms. And then if we make it to the summer, it's going to be blazing heat waves and probably a lot of wildfires. Yeah. 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And when you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. And clearly, we are in some dangerous and risky times. Because these storms, these winter storms, could cause whiteout conditions. They could cause power outages. If there's enough ice, it can cause trees to fall. It can snap power lines. It makes traveling on the road basically impossible and extremely dangerous. There's going to be a lot of flight cancellations and delays because, if it's whiteout conditions, those planes are not going anywhere. They can't go on the runway because the runway is going to be way too slippery. That's dangerous. And even if they make it off the runway and into the air, if the pilots can't see where they're going, that in itself is dangerous. So there's going to be a lot less air travel and a lot less road travel, depending on just how serious these winter storms are. Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. And seeing as we're in winter, there's going to be a lot of winter storms, snowstorms, blizzards, power outages. There's probably going to be constant school closures because a lot of people probably are not going to send their kids off to school or go to work. Which means a lot of teachers are not going to show up to work if the temperatures are in the teens. If the roads are too slippery, if it's whiteout conditions, if there's too much snow built up, nobody's going anywhere. Psalms 83:14, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. Verse 15, so persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. And clearly that's what the Lord is doing. There's going to be a lot of snowstorms and rainstorms and lightning storms. And as we get into I guess the warmer months, there's going to be tornadoes and hurricanes. Like, the Lord is not about to let up when it comes to his judgments. He's only going to increase the judgments, make them more intense and more destructive and more deadly. Like it says in Baruch 4:32, miserable are the cities which thy children serve. Miserable is she that received thy sons. And the heavy judgments from the fires, the earthquakes, and the storms and tempests that the Lord unleashes upon these different cities, not just here in America, but all over the world. Those are those many great miseries. And it's just going to get worse. Over the summer, Canada had some wildfires, and the U.S. had some wildfires. And if we make it to the summer, if the Lord doesn't destroy this place before then, the same thing is going to play out. More than likely, heat waves, wildfires that take forever to put out and cause so much destruction. We're going to have more earthquakes happening. And this is all just a sign of the times, sign of the last days. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters, just stay prayed up, because things are about to get a whole lot more dangerous and treacherous and risky out here. And the storms, the tempests, the fires, and the earthquakes are only some of what's already taken place. Here in America, you got ICE, the agency just running around snatching people up off the streets, snatching people out of grocery stores, out of schools, breaking it, going into people's homes, snatching them out their homes, going to people's workplace, basically killing people in the streets. You have that going on. You have all the protests going on. You got so much happening, man. So much happening. And things are only going to get more chaotic. So, keep your head on a swivel. Stay circumspect. Continue to watch. Like I said, stay prayed up. Pray for yourself and your loved ones. And pray for the sincere brothers and sisters and their loved ones as well. Because the Lord, He's steady opening those floodgates of judgment upon the earth. And these wicked people are really starting to feel it. Like it says in Psalm 7:11, Yahweh judgeth the righteous, and Yahweh is angry with the wicked every day. And through these judgments, we see the anger of the Lord being brought upon these wicked people. And that's what they deserve, because they're daily provoking the Heavenly Father unto wrath. And the judgment that's going to come from these snowstorms will be no different. The people that are going to be sliding off the roads and crashing into each other and all of that because of the dangerous road conditions. that in itself is judgment from the Lord. You know, the judgment of the Lord takes many forms. Those of us of the hopeful elect, we're well aware of that. You know, Psalms 9 and 16 tells us that the Lord Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higeon Selah. So the judgment that these wicked people receive is as a result of their own wicked actions. You know, like I said, they're merely reaping what they've sown. They wanted to be wicked. They provoked the Lord unto wrath, and they got punished, you know, accordingly. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, the Wadi Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, for putting His Spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to other brothers who are still firmly pushing the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to other sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up. Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, Shalom.